Hey everybody, welcome back. So kind of a huge day today. Before we get started, just to let everybody know, the Flow token is up for sale. This is only for, well, this is not for US residents, not for Canadian residents. There are a few other geographic restrictions, but super exciting. Everybody's kind of able to get their first crack at the tokens today. So obviously not financial advice, do your own research. There's plenty of documentation available, white papers on the product. There's also some documentation around the actual token economics and how those things are being distributed. So before you get involved, definitely read through that stuff. Jump into the Flow Discord. I have the link for the token sale as well as the Discord channel or the Discord server posted in the video description. And as always with anything crypto, just do not invest anything that you're not prepared to lose, and that is a good rule of thumb to live by. So today we're just going to look at the last playground tutorial. It's the voting contract, and this one I don't even think I've actually done this one, so we'll be learning this one together. And it's a pretty simple contract. It's going to have one smart contract, 3 transactions, and 1 script. But we'll do a few different things today. The other cool thing is we're going to actually send our first transaction with multiple signers as well. So just one other little nifty thing that we're going to do in this example. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be another pretty quick one, but let's get to it. This will wrap up the video tutorials, and we'll get into some more chill, longer format streams after this. So just a heads up, Thursday is, I'll actually put this in the channel description as well. Thursday is the Open World Summit. So let me just see if I can find a link to that quickly. Why, yes I can. So this is going to be pretty cool. Dapper Labs, the company behind Flow, a lot of other partners in the NFT gaming space are going to be jumping in and basically having their say. There's going to be a bunch of different seminars over day 1. So you're going to see kind of divided into separate categories, but a bunch of big timers. There's the CEO of Dapper Labs himself. This is going to be a lot of fun, so I'm going to jump into that for the morning on Thursday. There's Dieter, he's the architect behind Flow, or the main architect behind Flow. So this is going to be pretty cool. It's going to be like, this is going to be an entire day, and it's going to wrap up just before the stream on Thursday. So I'm going to be freshly pumped up from this, and we're going to do kind of a recap of the whole playground tutorials. There's a few things that I'd like to jump over because I think I might have cruised through them a little too quickly, and hopefully we'll get some Q&A during that session as well. But definitely recommend signing up for the Open World Summit. It's free. You're gonna get your money's worth out of it, I promise. And cruise around the site too, because there's quite a lot of good info there. Anyway, it's about as hard as I'm gonna shill anything on this stream. So let's get to it. We've got the voting contract here. So this is going to just basically, let me read before I talk so that I can actually tell you what we're doing. So it's just a simple contract where we're able to actually create proposals and then vote on those proposals, and the winning proposal will get picked. So let's cruise through it and see what we've got here, and then we'll start running the contracts. And as always with these, like, I highly recommend not just watching this video, but jumping through the tutorial link. It should be linked in the video description. I think I probably have the wrong one linked, so let's just get that one updated quickly for you. Yep. Should also mention that the docs were recently updated, so it looks like these pages are still in their old format, but it might be a little tricky to navigate. But the tutorials links for all of these are in the video descriptions. Okay, So yeah, I highly do recommend jumping through the actual tutorial. There's a lot of information in here that we don't cover in the video, and this was written by the actual devs. So these are the people who wrote the language, and they're explaining why they're doing things these ways. So when you're trying to actually learn the language and understand the habits that you're trying to build, this is super helpful. So do take your time, go through these. I've mentioned them on the other videos as well, and it's kind of like the next step. Watch this. Familiarize yourself with it, jump through the actual tutorial article, build it out yourself, and then the next step is usually at the bottom of these. There's kind of like this one's not really deep, but some of them have some ideas for you to how to actually extend these. So we'll kind of go into that world on some later streams once we get out of the original tutorial videos. But yeah, definitely jump through this one, especially on this video, because I haven't done this one myself, so I'm not going to be able to explain it, I don't think, as well as the other ones. So anyway, let's actually get into it. So we're going to create our approval voting contract. Within that contract, we're going to create a public array of strings for our proposals. We're going to create a constant. It's going to be a dictionary with integers for keys and integers for values, and that's going to store our votes. So it looks like we're just going to map the votes to the index of the proposals array. That makes sense. So we're going to create a ballot resource. The ballot resource is going to own its own array of proposals, and it's going to have a dictionary of choices. So this proposals array is a constant. When it gets created, it's not going to change. And then this choices dictionary is a variable, so it can change. And it looks like we're just going to, similar to what we do up here for votes, we're going to index, or we're going to use the index or the indices from the array as our keys, and then we're going to have a boolean, so a true or false, on whether or not we voted for that. So when we initialize our ballot, we are going to we're going to put the proposals from our contract in to our proposals array. So we're basically just going to copy that, and then our choices dictionary will be empty. And then we'll loop through each of those proposals and set our choices dictionary to have a false value for every one of them. So then we can run we'll create a vote method for our ballot resource. And when we vote, we'll pass in the index of the proposal that we're voting for. We're going to do a precondition that's going to check to make sure there is a proposal at that index. Otherwise, we're going to revert and log this message out. And then once we're done casting our vote, if that check works out, we're going to set that our choices value for that proposal to true. So I'm just double checking, but it doesn't look like, it looks like we can use, it looks like we can call that vote method more than once. Okay. So then we're going to create an administrator resource. So it will have an initialize proposals method, where we're going to pass in our array of proposals. So this here just means that when we call this method, we don't actually have to specify the argument label. So whenever you see an underscore before that, it's just kind of a special way of saying that we're just going to pass in the value. It doesn't need a label. We'll see that being used later, I am quite sure. So then in this we have a precondition that's going to check to make sure we have our proposals haven't already been initialized, and we're going to make sure that we actually have proposals to initialize. So if if they're 0, we're going to freak out and say this. If they've already been initialized, we're going to freak out and say this. And by freak out, of course, I mean revert. And then we are going to set the proposals that we pass in to, or sorry, we're going to set our approval voting proposals, so our contract proposals value, to the proposals that we've passed into this method here. So then this just loops through and sets the tally of votes for each proposal, or sorry, yeah, just sets the tally of votes to 0. Because remember, these votes are similar to like what we did here, where we set each choice to false. We're doing the same thing up here for our votes dictionary, where we're looping through, and for each proposal, we're setting our value to 0, or our vote count to 0. And creating an issue ballot method, which just returns a new ballot. So that's our ballot that can be transferred from user to user. All right, and then we have a cast method. So this is just on the contract itself. So we pass in a ballot to our cast method. We set our index to 0. We look through the ballot. So for every proposal in the ballot, we do, one sec. Yeah, so for every choice that's true, we go in and update the votes. We increment the votes for that choice by 1, so the vote count on the actual contract itself. And then we increase our incrementer and go through and look for the next one. So just looping through the actual proposals in the ballot and counting the votes for each one. And then we destroy the ballot once we're done casting it. So this is just the method that we use to tally up the votes. And then when we initialize our contract, we're just going to have an empty proposals array, empty votes array, and we will save our administrator resource to the contract, or to the account that initialized, or to the account that deployed the contract, by saving it to the voting admin domain in the, or voting admin path in the storage domain. Whew, alright. It's a little bit more of an adventure when you haven't actually done the tutorial itself, so I apologize if that was a little bit rough and slow. We can just do another quick cruise through it if we want, but I think we got it. Just creating our ballot resource. This ballot has an array of proposals and choices. This is what controls the actual voting. This is actually what controls setting up the proposals themselves, and this is how you actually cast a ballot to record and tally up the votes for the proposals and determine which proposal is in the lead. So let's deploy that. Deployed successfully, which is great because we didn't make any changes to it, and that would have been nerve-wracking. So let's take a look at our first transaction. So this one just grabs the administrator resource from storage, so it borrows a reference to it, and then calls the initialize proposals method. So we're going to create 2 proposals, longer shot clock and trampolines instead of hardwood floors. A little bit of a shout out to NBA Top Shot, which you will see very soon on Flow. So once we initialize our proposals, we just log out a message saying that we've successfully done so, and we have a quick post condition that just checks to make sure that we have 2 proposals in our proposals array. So we're going to send that with account 1 as the signer, and that was a success. Yay! So in our second transaction, this is where things get a little bit interesting, because we're actually we're signing with 2 signers. So we haven't done this before. but both our admin account and our voter account need to sign this transaction in order for it to be successful. So the little write-up here says this transaction allows the administrator of the voting contract to create a new ballot and store it in a voter's account. The voter and the administrator both have to sign the transaction so it can access their storage. So very cool. First time we're seeing it. There's tons of info around this. I would probably butcher the explanation of what's going on, but let's do it. So let's take a quick look at the transaction. There's our prepare block, our two signers, so our two account objects. One thing I'm not sure about, and we should look this up, is whether we're accessing the private account storage for both of them, or whether we're accessing the public account object for everyone but the first signer. I'm under the impression that we get the access to the private account data for the first signer and only the public for any additional signers. So that would be a good one to confirm. We might do that in our recap episode, because I'd like to keep this one as short and sweet as possible, just to stick to the heart of the matter and get through the tutorial itself. So the next line, we are borrowing our reference to our administrator from our storage, our voting admin domain in storage, and reverting if we can't find one. Then we're going to create a new ballot by calling the issue ballot function of the admin reference. And so that's going to create a new ballot. We're going to use our move operator and pop that in this ballot constant. And then we are going to save the ballot to the ballot path of the storage domain for our voter. So this is interesting, because this then basically answers my question, and we should only be able to do this. We should only be able to save and load from account storage if we have access to the private data for the account as well. So we should see this message if this transaction was successful. So let's cross our fingers. We did it. Yay. Cool, so let's take a quick look at our storage and just see what's going on. So we have our administrator resource in our storage for account 1. And we have our ballot resource in our storage for account 2. And you can see our proposals that we've created. And our choices. So this is a value of 0 and value of 1. That's just the keys of the index, or of the array up here. So this would be index 0, index 1, but both their values are false because we haven't actually voted for either one of them yet. Cool. Okay, so checking out transaction 3. This is where we're actually going to vote for a proposal on our ballot. So it says the transaction allows a voter to select the votes they would like to make and cast that vote by using the cast vote function of the approval voting smart contract. So just to look through here, we're getting our voters account object. We are loading our ballot from storage that we just created in the last transaction. We're reverting if we don't find one. Then we're going to vote on proposal 1. So this would be the second proposal in our array, because arrays are 0 based. And then after that, we're calling our cast method. So we're reading our ballot, or we're reading the vote data from our ballot, updating the smart contract itself, and then burning that ballot that we just used. So by calling our cast method on the contract itself, and then we'll see our log message if everything was successful. So we want to sign this with account 2 because account 2 has the ballot. And so that was successful. So we actually have our vote cast and tallied. We've used our ballot. When we look at account 2, there's no more ballot because we burnt that, so we destroyed it. So that storage is empty. Cool. We still have our admin in account 1. So the last thing we need to do is run our script, and our script is just going to read the tallied votes for each proposal, and we should see that proposal 1 has no votes and proposal 2 has 1. Can you see that? Yeah, barely. So number of votes for proposal 1, longer shot clock, 0. Number of votes for proposal 2, trampolines instead of hardwood floors, 1. And that's, like I said, because we voted for proposal 1 in an array, they are 0 based, so this would be proposal 0 and this would be proposal 1. A little bit confusing with our naming here, but hey, that's code. So that's it. That's a really quick overview. 1 sec, let me just change the song here. That was a really quick, another really quick tutorial, but that wraps it up, and it gives a really nice, simple look at how to work with voting. So obviously, if you're going to build a governance token or something like that, you're going to be building quite a bit more into it. But a really cool look at just using ballots. One of the things right off the bat you might want to look at for customizing this one would be to find a way to limit your ballot to 1 vote. So in some cases you don't want to have multiple votes on a ballot. You should just restrict your users to 1 option. In this case, it looks like you'd be able to, well, let's try it out. I'm going to deploy this a couple times to just clear the state properly. Did it clear the state properly? Yeah, it looks like it. Okay. So we're gonna do everything the same except for step 2. Let's change our signer back to account 1. I mean step 3. So multiple signer transaction. Let's get count 1 out of there. We're gonna pop this up and we're gonna just vote for both proposals. Yeah, okay, so let's do that first and see what happens. We'll just run it out like we did. So we could do that, which that's what I mean. Like, it would be kind of cool to just limit it so that you could only run the 1 vote and then it would just revert and say you can only vote once. But if we look at this now and the results, both of them should have 1 vote, right? So niche geet in some cases, but another thing I'm interested in is, can we vote more than once for a proposal? Could we just sit there and loop through it 1,000 times and really make a mess of things? Let's find out. Okay, so we're gonna redeploy this oh, we already deployed it here. Okay, so we'll go through step 1 and 2 just like we did before. Oops. You let me drive. Alright, and then what we're gonna do here is just a quick loop. Let's just vote for proposal 0. Is it while in this one? Yeah, I think it is. So we'll create a quick incrementer. That is less than. Let's go crazy. So while I is less than 1,000, and then we will increment so that we don't get stuck in an endless situation. We'll see what happens now. Can we loop through a bunch of times and just continually vote for 0? Like legends? No. Okay. So that probably would have helped if I read. Yeah, okay. Silly me. forgot that we were using booleans. So you can only vote once. Good job. Good job. Yeah, okay, cool. So that answers 2 of my questions. Sorry, I kind of went freestyle there and tried to break things a little bit, but that's kind of what what I recommend doing with these tutorials is get comfortable with how they work and then start trying to change it and see if you can figure out, you know, issues where you might be able to kind of exploit the code, because that's going to help you write a better, more secure contract. And then worst case, you're just gonna find out kind of like the dead ends and little speed bumps along the way, that and just the nuances of how Cadence works. So again, that was super quick. I think from Thursday on, we're probably gonna have some less, you know, start to finish streams and a little bit more kind of open-ended stuff. So hopefully we can have a little bit more discussion. We're going to take a look at, you know, some of the actual applications of this code in the industry. So take a look at some games, maybe get outside of the scope of just what's available on Flow. So yeah, I'm really pumped up for Thursday, especially. I'm really jacked about the summit. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm sure I'll have quite a lot to spout off about. And then yeah, I guess I'll see you on Thursday. So thanks for joining me. Have fun with this one. Do take a run through the playground, and please do jump into the Discord and start introducing yourself, ask some questions, and take a look at the token sales. Take care. I'll see you next time.